Hello and welcome. My name is Alonda Carter and I am the Recovering Hunbot. This is season 1, episode 20 of Hey Hun, You Woke Up. This podcast is brought to you on 10 different platforms, and there's a video version on my YouTube channel, which is the Recovering Hunbot. Today, I'm chatting with my friend Spike. She is John Atack's assistant, who also has a YouTube channel. Now, the video I did earlier this week is about an American fraudster from the early 20th century. And as I was talking to Spike, she was like, oh, I have something that's related to that. So she and I are discussing the Huckster Sales Toolkit. Now, the video that I did earlier this week is kind of a cross between multi-level marketing and true crime, because there's crime involved because he does go to prison and he is committing fraud. And it's also related to multi-level marketing because at the end of it, I share with you how all these tactics that he used way back then are used today in multi-level marketing. Now, Spike was having allergy issues while we were chatting with each other, and this is Editing Alonda Talking, so I may have an issue with getting some of that out, so just bear with it and just hang in there. And I want to let you know what restaurants that my husband and I supported this past week. It was actually 3, and the first one is Whataburger. Whataburger is originally from Corpus Christi. It was a Texas creation, and I know it's in New Mexico. I'm not sure what other states it's in, but really here in Texas, it is a staple, and I will tell you, there have been these wars between In-N-Out and Whataburger. Whataburger wins, just saying, been to both, and Whataburger is delicious. The second thing that we also supported, because I love it, and this originates in Austin, Texas, is Slotchkie's. And I love to get the turkey original with no mayo and mustard instead, because then it kind of tastes like the original, which has ham instead of turkey, and I just want it to kind of taste like that, but I don't want the ham. I think I'm like doing better if I get the turkey for some reason. And then the last one we supported was on Memorial Day. And originally we were going to go to a different barbecue place, but there was like this long line in the streets, like with cars, not like with people. And so my husband went to another place that's nearby because we had like several that we were like, well, we could go here or here. So he went to this place called Damaris. Damaris has been around forever. It has a long history here in Houston, and it's absolutely delicious. So that's what we enjoyed on Memorial Day. I also wanted to share with you 2 Etsy shops that I have made purchases through recently. The first one is Halo To Go, and as you can see, if you're watching the video, and if you're not, if you're just listening to me, I did buy this little cross strap purse, multi-purpose crossbody bag. That's what it's called, multi-purpose crossbody bag. And I bought this because I know when my husband goes back to work, I'm going to be walking the dogs, and I want to listen to some audiobooks, or I want to listen to some, YouTube videos, because, I do that too. And I need to be able to carry my stuff with me as I'm walking the dogs. So I thought this would be a really, really great opportunity to support someone who is creating things on Etsy. And I absolutely love this bag. This is the literal bag that I did purchase. And then I want to mention Sews by Lynn. Lynn makes masks and other items. Now myself, I didn't have any masks and I needed some. I bought 6 and they're each so original. I get compliments every single time I walk out of the house wearing my mask. Everyone always says how cute they are. So I will put those links in the description. So if you are looking for items on Etsy, please check out both of these stores and support both Lorna and Lynn. And now let's get to my chit chat with Spike. Hey Spike, thank you so much for joining me. So this week I did a video about George Graham Rice, who is a very early con artist from the 1900s here in the US. And really, when you go in history, everything that's been going on in multi-level marketing didn't just spring up overnight. And in my conversation with you, because we chit chat back and forth in email, you told me about this like toolkit that you have, and I thought that'd be a good fit to kind of continue that conversation about what con artists do, because that's happening in multi-level marketing, and that's my primary focus. So I'm going to throw it over to you and say thank you again for joining me and walk us through this toolkit, and I'll be throwing in and out probably my own observations.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. It's always a ball and really grand talking to you too. Um, the Huckster sales kit is something that I came up with while helping John write his book, Opening Minds, which is a book that describes how all sorts of abusive groups, cults, relationships work, the little bells and whistles and pulleys and strings behind them. And in the first chapter, he describes right off in the beginning how he himself almost fell for one of these phone scams where they call you up and say, hello, I'm from Windows and your machine is in trouble. And so we wrote this whole little list of what this guy had done and what other hucksters do to get you. And the first thing is confusion. It's not on the yellow pad list, but that was the first thing. Was this guy was calling up to a phone that he knew it was early in the morning in that time zone. So you're already, you're waking up, you're answering the phone. You're not at your best when you're just waking up. You don't know which way is up. But then we get in the first thing, emotional pressure. Your machine is about to go crazy. If I knew my laptop was about to die, I would be so upset. Or people who sell hand cream. Oh, you're about to be falling to this disease. So the first stage is emotional pressure. There's got to be some emotional stakes to get people's attention, something to get them caught, get them going, get them, some sort of fear or some sort of embarrassment, some sort of emotional pressure that makes you receptive to what they're going to sell.
So let me ask you this, because I'm trying to put it within context of multi-level marketing. In multi-level marketing, you usually build, rapport first, but you also are looking for the need someone has, and maybe that need is to they want to lose weight, they want more freedom, they want, there's something there that they are looking for to make their life better. And I don't know if how the pressure fits in within that context. Do you have any idea of how to relate it in that context?
The pressure could just be, oh, you just lost your job, or oh, you don't like your job. Here's a better way to live. Who wouldn't want to be able to just work 20 hours a week and have as much money as they like, or even 10 hours a week and be able to go off on cruises? So there's that emotional hook. Also, in whatever conferences you go to, there's a lot of, it's whenever you've got 50 or so people all in a hotel ballroom, it's an emotional pressure cooker. So there is that. Having never really been in one, the only time that I got semi-roped in, it was because I was having a hard time watching people die for a living. I was working in a nursing home, a long-term care home, which specialized in Alzheimer's disease. And so as a youngster, it was very hard for me to see these dear, sweet people and see them dying of a very horrible disease. So they were like, well, your life doesn't have to be like that. If you sold our Melaleuca, then things would be better. But so that also leads into the urgency too, because you've got to, this is only now. This deal is now. And if you don't act now, it's gone.
That makes me think of the sales pages of different things, like different courses you might sign up for, and how they'll have on there the time that's like tick, tick, tick. Like it's only available for, I don't know, 45 minutes, 2 days, whatever, to make you feel like you better do it now or it's never happening again, even though it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, act now, act now. I used to work for Macy's for a while as a sign putter upper, and my least favorite were the morning sales, where at 12 o'clock the prices would go back up, and it's like, yeah, show up 2 Saturdays from now, they'll be even lower. Show up 2 months from now, and that same garment will be on the 50% reduced rack. That's how I got a fabulous, and I'm not even a clothes hound, and I got a fabulous set of clothes because I waited 2 weeks until they were on the 75% rack. But urgency is a big pull in. Act now because it's going to be gone, or also in the computer thing. But if you don't act now, your computer is going to go. There's no time. Back when I used to play D&D, there was a very abusive dungeon master who would, in order to pressure you into poor choices, he'd say, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what's your choice?
Wow, I used that method with, when I was teaching, because I was trying to get them to do something. So I'd do a countdown. It's like, you have X number of time. But I guess it was probably kind of different, like being a teacher and needing to move on to something. And, it seems like some of these methods can, I guess can be used for good or for evil, sort of a thing.
Oh, yeah, any of them. Sometime we can talk about Robert Cialdini, who does the laws of sales.
Yeah, the influence.
Any of them can be used ethically or unethically. That's the whole thing of all of these. They're all double-edged swords. Then we have rapport. That's third down, because first you got to grab them, let them know that they've only got a fixed amount of time to talk to you, and then you can become their best friend.
You know what? That just made me think of something. On the fringes of multi-level marketing is one of these coaches by the name of Ray Higdon. And I can remember him doing videos because I got his, lifetime group rank makers, because that was going to help me shoot on up to the top of Beachbody.
Oh, yeah.
And roll eyes. Anyway, I can remember him talking about in his little spiel, and I don't remember the exact, like line for line, but he said to make the other person think that, you're about to walk out the door, like put in that sense of urgency, like, you have something going on, so you really can't talk right now, but, just to give that urgency. So I find that interesting, and that's another component.
Mm-hmm. And then you're taking the time, even though you don't have time. I'm taking the time to give you this wonderful thing. So I'm your best friend now. A lot of these candle companies and things like that, they rely on networks of friends.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about, the urgency and like, but I'm going to do this for you right now. That's used in multi-level marketing too, especially like in the messaging back and forth, or even like, if you're doing a live video or something, you might say, I don't have much time right now, but, I'll answer 3 questions. I mean, that component can definitely be used.
But rapport, car sales, they're your best friends. Inviting people to Tupperware parties and those bead parties. I saw one of your videos on those bead parties. It was like, oh my God. I can't tell you.
On bath bombs and pearl parties.
Oh, yeah, the pearl party.
Yeah, sign me up for that.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I remember when I was working at Macy's and this gal left, and I was kind of missing her because she was fun to be with in the break room. And she invites me to a party. I think, oh, all right, we can continue our friendship. It wasn't. It was a candle company party. And you're inviting me to a party, but I'm going to have to buy stuff. It was also like in the New Age community, we had this one gal who was trying to set herself up as a priestess for everybody. And she invited everybody to an afternoon tea. And it turned out that we were all there to buy her stuff.
That's really interesting because it makes me think of somebody who's a chiropractor here that I only know this through a friend that would basically invite patients over for like lectures and stuff like that. But basically, it seemed to me kind of like have plants in the audience, so to speak. But also they were members of the MLM Kyani. And so then they had this built-in, group of people that they could pitch this to.
Mm-hmm. And also having the plants in the group, that's not on the list, but that's a very, very sneaky and wonderful thing that they'll do is if you go to a Mooney weekend or any of the other sort of new agey large group awareness, they'll have plants in the audience to not only model what the correct behavior is, but to keep an eye on possible dissent and shut it down immediately. Terry Pratchett is one of my favorite authors. In Night Watch by Terry Pratchett, there's this party where there's supporters of the old ruler of the city and supporters of the new ruler, potential new ruler of the city. And the old rulers who are being taught to think in the new way are being shunted into little groups so that through conversation they can all be convinced that this is the way to go. And they're not allowed to talk to each other. They can only talk to the people who already approve of the new leader.
Wow.
So it's sort of a surround and immerse.
Well, it goes back to keeping people, like within MLM, you want to be around people who are like-minded people. It's the same sort of a thing. They're just like, they're not even part of the group yet, but they're going to be part of the group. And the only way to do that is not to allow them to have that conversation with other people who might be like, I'm not so sure about all this, I don't know. Don't want that, but you can talk to these people because they uphold our values and beliefs.
Yep, it's Steve Hassan's information control right away. Yeah. And also what John calls gatekeeping, where you only talk to the approved people and you surround the new people with love bombing and affirming that this is the right way, and make sure that the new people don't meet and question each other going, are you sure this is okay? I don't know. It sounds kind of hinky. But that conversation can never happen because in between those two new people are 17 gazillion other people, so they're very, very carefully meshed.
Back in, I want to say it was in the 80s, one of my dearest friends, still friends with her, love her to death, she invited me to an event that was in downtown Houston at, I want to say it was at the Hyatt. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I figured out afterwards it was an est thing. And she was like thought it was fabulous. I recognized something is like this. There's something rotten in Denmark here. And they were trying to surround me and kind of keep me under control. I was able to grab her and just get out of Dodge because I'm like, no.
Yeah. And if she had gotten back, they probably would have had some choice things to say about you to try to pry her apart from you if it had been worth their while to do so.
And we were roommates at the time too.
Yeah, they can tear people apart because, your mom doesn't like us. Well, your mom is evil.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Hassan, he thought that his family was all Satan.
Yeah.
But they weren't. They were a nice,
just regular
family.
people. Yeah.
Yep. The next one is consistency. If you can get them for a little thing, you get them for a little thing. There was an experiment, I think it was Cialdini who did it, where people were, could you put this little tiny card in your window? And if they were willing to put a little card in their window saying they supported some sort of political movement or other, then later on they were willing to put a big ass lawn sign down.
Yeah, or consistent beliefs.
Yeah, you're willing to go this bit. It also turns into the sunk cost fallacy. Well, you can't give up now because you put so much time and money into it. In Scientology, the big marker usually is OT3, where all of a sudden you find out the frankly ridiculous story of Xenu 75 trillion years ago to solve overpopulation. They fly us in DC-8s. They flew all the citizens of space in DC-8s to Earth and then laid all the people around near the volcanoes, put nuclear bombs in the volcanoes, and then all the spirits were captured on electronic ribbons and trucked to movie theaters where they watched videos about Jesus and religion, and all of the world's history was implanted into our brains. And then they were released and were too confused to go anywhere and attached themselves onto the then cave people running about. And that's why we're all messed up is because we're a bunch of, there's all these body thetans clinging to us that are real people that have to be sent away. Now, that's a ridiculous story on the face of it, but by the time you hear that, a lot of people, especially staff members, never get to that level to hear that. But if you're in it enough to hear that story legitimately, you have had to spend a lot of time in this group to the point where most of your friends are in, and you have spent at least $500,000 just to open that folder and read that story.
Oh,
So that you've spent all this money, you can't go back out now.
I'll never forget what, I guess, I don't remember who was interviewing Leah Remini about, the O2E3. And when she like opened it and her mom's like all excited and Leah's just basically like, WTF is this?
Yeah. John's experience was he was looking at it going, my God, what the hell is this? And somebody poked their head in and said, it's just like the mind parasites, which is a Colin Wilson science fiction book that was rather popular in their crowd at that time. And John thought, oh my God, this guy actually knew what I was thinking. And because it checked out on the e-meter.
Oh gosh.
Ran it on the e-meter, and the e-meter said that it worked. But when you're surrounded by people and you've put this much time and energy into it, you're going to be a little bit more consistent with it because you're a bit more committed to it. Or that's sometimes, would somebody stay in a wedding if there weren't a big party that cost thousands of dollars and everybody knew that you were now stuck with this guy?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, there's a lot of, if you put in this amount of energy, you're not going to walk away once it goes sour, because there's the old excuse for staying in an abusive relationship. Well, we don't just divorce, we fix things when they're wrong. And yes, that's, you don't want to divorce the first bump, but you don't also want to live the rest of your life with somebody you absolutely loathe because your church says you can't leave.
To bring that into multi-level marketing terms, because generally what can happen with most people, if they even quote unquote experience success, like somebody's buying their crap for a little bit of a while and maybe it looks like they're moving up or something, but then it kind of plateaus and it fizzles out and they can't, it's like it's not happening the way that it once did. Or even if they've gotten higher than that and now all of a sudden there's been a shift, there's been a change or something, but they still have to put on the face, the perception as if everything is dandy, this is the way, because it goes back to that whole consistency that you're talking about, and their own belief system is going to have to be like, well, this has to work because I've been told it works. I did see it work. Surely I can make this work. I have to do something differently. It goes back to blaming themselves, continuing to act as if. That's the big thing, is to act as if.
Act as if. Yeah, the as if everything's okay. That comes up in a lot of abusive relationships and families. You have to act as if we're a happy family. Act as if we're really okay. Don't let anybody else know. But also in Scientology, talking about unreasonable expectations, is that every Thursday at 2, you have to have your stats in, your statistics. And that might be number of letters written, number of people you've gotten to buy a book, number of people you've gotten to take a course. Now that number in Scientology has to go up every week. If it goes down one week, then that week you get less privileges.
Yeah.
You might even lose your right to birthing or to food. And if it keeps going down, it's your fault. So that they're left on this treadmill of, it's got to be better than next week. It's got to be better than next week. It's got to be better than next week. Otherwise, you have evil intention against David Miscavige. Out you go.
Oh, that within the world of, like, I'll just go Beachbody, I would say overall MLMs in terms of the numbers, because you do document how many people you're reaching out to, when to follow up with them, and you need to be doing like adding people as friends, X number of people. There's different things that you need to be, and it's always a number is associated with it in general. Whether that is attainable or not attainable is a completely different thing. But you keep on, doing that, and someone could ask you, well, how many people did you talk to this week? And then if you didn't meet the perceived number that you should, that goes back to, well, then that's your fault. You weren't really doing the work.
Yeah. It's not that the stuff is overpriced, or that a human being only has so many friends who are willing to buy their crap for a certain amount of time. There's limitations. Everybody's doing it. Now, this is something that's called social proof.
Oh yeah, social proof.
Now, one of the healthy, or actually just non-abusive practical ways, is that you see in a household where you take your shoes off, there's a pile of shoes by the door to show somebody who's coming in the house that you put your shoes there. My husband and I, we call it Mount Vesuvius. But that being said, or if you're driving down the main drag of a town and you see your favorite restaurant, you see that there's not so many people there, but there's lots and lots of cars over here at this restaurant. Well, they must be doing something. Let's go see what they're doing, We tend to, duck decoys work on this very same principle. So it's even used on ducks. If you see a bunch of ducks around there, well, that's a safe place for ducks to be.
Well, to bring it to the multi-level marketing type thing and social media, with Instagram, it's going to be how many likes you have on something and comments. Same thing with, a business page on Facebook, how many people have liked that, just all of that. And if you see a big following, and that's why people will buy followers, then, it's like, it looks like, oh, something's really going on. But then when you peel that back and you see but not many people are commenting, or they're only saying a couple of words, it's not,
or they're bot clicks.
That's what I'm saying, is that it doesn't weigh. It's like, but then there are people you'll see where they have a huge following and they have a lot of people saying stuff, but the people saying stuff are usually the people that are already within the entire bubble. So it's like, it's
or
not
even
like
puppets.
Outside people, but they think if they comment on each other's stuff, that will attract others. So they're trying to, I guess, emulate social proof.
They're creating a sense of audience. That's why Scientology, if you ask a practicing Scientologist how many people are in Scientology, they'll tell you 8 million. They don't have 8 million. They have never topped active members. They have never topped 1 million as far as active paying members. It's always been down at 250,000, somewhere around 25,000 at its height. And now it's getting lower and lower and lower. But if you go to one of their their sales pitch or their meetings, they'll be saying, we have reached this many million people and we have done this and it has been 10x performance, and that all these people are involved. I mean, I remember one person commenting, why are you so down on Scientology? It has helped millions of people. It's like, really? Name 12.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting with Scientology how they keep on building the orgs, even though they sit empty,
Yeah.
No one's there.
You want to annoy a Scientologist, just bring out the L. Ron Hubbard quote. The moment that buildings get more important to us, then you have my permission to go around and blow up a few. I forget the exact quote. I should look it up. It's a funny one. But flocking, everybody's doing it. Come on, you've got to do, after school specials. Try this, man. Everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
So everybody's doing it. So why aren't you? That's why a lot of companies go, we're the most popular company. We're this, we're that. We're the most. everybody loves us, so we must be good.
But the thing is, everybody who does, quote, love them, again, they're part of the bubble, you know?
Yeah. Or sock puppets of the people in the bubble, too, you know, create a whole bunch of false folks that are, yeah. You know, and also the thing is that just because everybody thinks something is right, in Europe before the 19th century, you know what the most popular form of public entertainment was? Public executions, and not just quick ones either. People being drawn and quartered, which was, you know, having your arms and legs stripped to corpses, being pulled apart, having your guts torn out while you were still alive.
It's interesting how things like that, when it's the social norm and it's socially, it is accepted as it's okay, you know, then you don't see it as problematic at all. You know, it's a cultural type thing that's embedded, which goes into multi-level marketing. Is so much of our culture and values are embedded into that. And so it's very hard for people to be able to see the problems associated with it.
Yeah. Well, we can actually look at anybody of middle age knows exactly how different our culture was just 20 years ago. I mean, I was raised by two moms back in a time when I could have been taken away from them just because they were two women in a relationship together. Nowadays, we at least know that, no, that's not cool, you know, and we have a much better culture as far as recognizing the whatever percentage it is, depends on who you ask, between 8 and 12% of the population is gay. We know that they're just our neighbors, our friends, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, or sisters, you know, they're just another facet of our culture. But a couple decades ago, it was horrible and awful, and pedophile was still the same word as gay. And, you know, we've changed.
We change over time. Some things for the good, some things not. It's always evolving and changing. It really goes back to what we perceive as being the social norms, you know, and the social mores and our values and what they are at the time. That's why I think it's very difficult for me personally as an anthropologist. When I look at a group, I try to remove as much as I can and be very neutral. And same thing when I look at belief systems associated with MLM, all this, I try to come from a neutral stance and not put my own values on that, because, you know, that's just, it's not about my values being better than somebody else's, but to be able to look at it and try to understand how and why they have that belief system and how it functions for them, whether there's things in it I find problematic or not. I mean, and I'm not the judge and jury of, you know, any of that. However, I will be the judge and jury and say that multi-level marketing business structure is horrible.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, are people using other people as things? Are people hurting other people without any feeling for those other people's autonomy and goodwill? Like, just to do an example where most of us would go, but then I think we talked about this before we hit record. This is the next button down, is scarcity. Was it before we hit record or was it after we hit record?
I don't remember.
Well, let's talk about scarcity again.
Even if we talked about it, we can talk about it again.
Of course. Oh, yeah, because you've got to, everything is now, supplies are limited. I was just watching something about various cultural things that happened in the last century. Remember Beanie Babies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, talk about an artificial scarcity. That this one blue, what was it? Was it a walrus? A blue walrus it was super rare, and there were riots at the stores. I even remember Cabbage Patch Kids doing that too. These ugly, ugly dolls. If nobody's ever seen them, they're these ugly, pudgy-faced dolls that apparently became the subject of...
They were the rage.
Riots. Yeah, riots. And so, artificial shortages, just like toilet paper in the early days of our pandemic. Toilet paper was all of a sudden being.
Well, this makes me think of bringing it into MLM, for instance, with Beachbody. Shakeology is the staple that you need to get, but they will release a particular flavor, like in the fall, the pumpkin spice. I don't think you can get it all year long. And then only a few people are able to, not everybody's able to get it. Same thing with like some of the unique cosmetics. They will release something, but the thing is, it's like all the presenters are buying it. It's not like you and me and just regular people are going, can't wait to get me some of that. LuLaRoe is having special little things. And there's all of these things that they have limited editions of X, Y, and Z. So you got to get it. Myself, though, when I was in Beachbody, I was like, basically, screw all that. I don't care. I'm sticking with what I have.
Yeah, it's an artificially created scarcity that really there wasn't any demand for. The idea that there's this thing and supplies are limited, and when really there's a truck out back with a whole bunch more.
Well, or like with Beachbody, it was always like, I have room for 5 people for this next thing that I'm doing, the challenge group. 5, looking for 5 women. BS, I was looking for 5 women every stinking month. 1 month, it didn't matter.
Yeah, it's very, very artificially, but it creates this thing of, oh, I've got to buy now. One of my favorite John quotes, in fact, I've even made it into a thing that I've been trying to get him. He hates the idea of marketing at all. And yet Chris has merch. It's a fun way of supporting a channel or somebody who you do believe in, is to buy a t-shirt with one of their sayings. And I've been after him for a couple years now, but he still won't. But one of my favorite John quotes, if we ever get it on anything on a t-shirt, it's this: if you have to buy now, don't.
Yeah.
On t-shirts, buy now, supplies are limited.
I created merch, a t-shirt, after I got my first 100 subscribers, and I mentioned it like one time and I think it's like some of the aftermath of having been in MLM, and especially right now during the pandemic. I don't want to be like, hey, join my Patreon. Hey, join my, it's like, it feels really icky to me, and that's why it's like, but I've picked up some patrons over through this without even telling people to do it, because I just don't feel like it's the right time. So I can really understand like John and his like kind of aversion to the marketing thing, because I'm kind of the same way. It's like, I don't want to just use all of those tactics that I talk about, even though I'm not doing it in a way that's janky and going to harm people, because I never want anybody to put me on a pedestal and think I'm, the bee's knees or anything, and that I know everything, because I don't. Do your own research. But, yes, that is one way that you do support creators. Now, I will mention this about that whole marketing piece. I find this very funny, and it's especially those Enagic Hunbots, again. They have a huge problem with me having a Patreon. They think, I'm doing the same thing. I'm marketing. It's like, okay, they're very different. It's
it's all on a continuum, for one thing, and also there's also a line of, are you forcing people? Everybody should go check out Chris's merch, because he's got some fabulous t-shirts. I am a t-shirt junkie, and he's got some very clever and pithy sayings on t-shirts, and you get a valued product that you actually use and throw a few bucks down so he can keep on doing his work. But Scientologists, ex-Scientologists in particular, they have been so badly burned by what they call the regs, the registrars, the people who sell more time. So I can understand. And also, is somebody who's coming from an MLM, once you've been burned in a certain way, anything that even smells like that, even if it's a good thing, is gonna put you off a little bit.
Yeah,
and that's real. That's real.
With Patreon, I mean, anybody who, because people have been supporting artists for eons. Everybody knows exactly what they're getting. It's not like it's a hidden thing. you know?
Yeah, yeah. We have a couple of patrons, and I'm very, very, very grateful to them. And, you know, because, and if I ever get my own income over, I have a list of folks that I will immediately start throwing a few bucks at every month, because I listen to their material and they're a very valuable part of my day. So there's a line between when is that ethical and when is it not ethical. And as Cialdini teaches us, a lot of these things can be used very ethically indeed, and some of them can be used extremely unethically indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what's really important is for people to look at, is that it depends on how it is being used, you know? I mean, if I'm like mentioning my merch, which I'm not, I think I wore my t-shirt yesterday when I was talking to Chris when he interviewed me.
Well, let's get into reciprocity there. Reciprocity. Do you guys do free gifts?
Yeah, well, I've actually did a whole video on the function of reciprocity, because reciprocity is a huge thing within anthropology, and I went through all of that, and then I added onto it extended reciprocity, because within MLM, you feel like it's giving you something, and because you believe it's giving you something, you're going to work harder. But then I have a whole cycle of things of how it also extends to your upline, and it extends to the products that you feel like you're getting something out of it, and so you have to keep on giving back. And I brought in Mouse and the gift, and there was, I talked about Melanowski and the Kula ring, because all of that is like, you know, the exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. In Scientology, it's called exchange. And Hubbard, in one of his pretending to be more ethical, said that you should never, ever just get money just to get money. But of course, now people are paying thousands and thousands of dollars for things that are never, ever happening. But yeah, I mean, even in the religious or spiritual angle, you've got, well, Jesus died this horrible death on the cross for you, so you have to do this, 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 and this, and this. Or God is giving you the earth. Or in an abusive relationship, I'm keeping you fed, I'm, you know, doing all of this for you. Or an abusive parent will say, I gave you life. How dare you say no when I ask you to, you know, do this horrible thing for me?
Yeah. It goes back to like it's a power thing as well, you know, an abusive power.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be, I mean, that, you know, that is one of the things that reciprocity and cooperation is what built human society. I mean, if we were all just all for ourselves, we would have never developed even flint knapping. But reciprocity, it puts our culture together, but it can also be used as a guilt tool. You know, I thought we were friends. I gave you this, and yet you're not going to do everything I say.
Oh, that definitely hit me as doing Beachbody, of things that I had done for people in the past, but then they didn't reciprocate, and that just really just pissed me off. It was like, but I did all of these things for you, but at the time I didn't realize what I had to offer was janky, so nobody wants it, you know.
I love that word, janky. I'm going to start using that now.
It's like nobody wants this crap, but you know, so it wasn't me, it was what I had to offer. And what's funny, what I have found is like everything that I learned about how to do social media and nobody was paying attention to anything I was doing. They didn't give a shit. But I started doing anti-MLM stuff, and it's not like I have a huge channel right now, but it just organically has grown, which is so much different than feeling like, because in MLM, you're trying to force that to happen.
But that's the Huckster sales kit right there, all of that.
Well, all of it, like, you know, as we've been discussing, it really goes right on into multi-level marketing. There's all these different facets. I mean, anyone who is going to approach a person with a proposition that is a less than stellar, they're going to have some tricks up their sleeve, and some are slicker than others.
Yeah. And some people seem to be able to do it naturally. Other people read their Dale Carnegie, and Dale Carnegie was just doing a very nice book, but a lot of people have used that book to act nice when they're not.
Yeah. A lot of things I would say have been bastardized,
Yeah.
in the name of making a buck. And I think a lot of times people like who come into multi-level marketing it's not like somebody has a criminal mindset, a con artist mindset initially.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, because they're how they think is eroded and is replaced with something else. And I don't think they're even aware that now they think like a con artist, like a scammer, like a criminal. They're unaware that there's been that transformation.
It's called cloning, where somebody in a totalitarian or authoritarian group will slowly take on the personality traits of their perception of the leader.
Well, see, but within multi-level marketing, you don't have a single leader.
No, you don't, but you have a model of what those people at the top are.
Well, I would say you have a model of how multi-level marketing works, because it's like you examine any one of them and it's like there's an overall model, and then you kind of plug in the different little ones all within the umbrella that have their different little nuances, but there's really a model that sits on top of it. It's not so much of someone that you're looking at and it's like, well, that person's they got it going on. But once you get into it, then you might see someone who is at the top of the multi-level, and it may not be the CEO, but it may someone who is like within Beachbody, a 15-star diamond that you think, wow, she's just amazing. He's incredible. And you have respect for them. And then you want to, and maybe that's why you end up joining their team or whatever, but you end up seeing them as being successful and you want success. So maybe if you do things like them, but the problem is someone coming in new in multi-level marketing and they do the exact same things as someone who's like what's called an elite coach or one of the top 10 coaches, you're not going to have the same reaction. You're just going to go like, it's going to be a lead balloon. They've already got a built-in audience for everything. So it's very different.
Yeah.
But then you also have in Beachbody, you have these super trainers like Shaun T, Shailene Johnson, Tony Horton. Tony's no longer with them. I mean, there's a bunch of others. And you look up to them. When there was Beachbody Live, where you could get certified to teach a Beachbody program, you would see those people who taught it, and like that would be with the super trainers, would be in the background of the videos, and that you would go in, because I got certified in 2 programs, and you would see them like teaching this. You would want to be like them too. So it's a little bit different than, like saying having like a David Miscavige or a Jim Jones or, somebody, a central figure. It's really more of it's more mental than anything, if that makes sense.
There's in like the JWs too, they have 8 guys who are in charge, and I don't think if you're in it you actually know who they are, the governing body, but there is definitely a model of the perfect member. And so a lot of the groups that don't have one central leader will still have a personality type that is deemed to be, this is what you should be, this is how you are, because that it's not going to be the leader anyway. It's going to be their perception of the leader, but without a leader, it's going to be their perception of what the ideal member looks like.
And see, I would say like within Beachbody, it would go back to the 4 vital behaviors. Everything always goes back to, are you doing the 4 vital behaviors?
Oh my God. What are the 4 vital behaviors? I'll bite.
Invite. You always have to have something to invite people to. And that would be the free group, the paid group, and then the coaching, the opportunity for the business. And then there is personal development. Then there is be a product of the product. And then there's recognize. With recognition, that means like, okay, if you hit Success Club, if you get Success Club, then you're on the leaderboard. If you rank up, then there's an announcement. If you are on the national wake-up call and you answer the trivia, then there's an announcement and you get like a little prize. It's just like, and like within your groups, if you're doing a free group, it might be you recognize somebody has completed the first day of the water challenge and did a fabulous thing, because it can be very small, it can be very large, but different ways basically to make people like, that a boy, you know, it's like you're giving them a little trophy, you know, and just making them feel good. And it's kind of tied in a way to love bombing as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, because you've got to, it's because any effective brainwashing, it's not just the beating down, it's also the bringing up, but only when you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
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 Hey, here's your little gold star. Now go sit in the corner.
Or it could be like, look, all of these people got the gold star and they get to go to the special group, but you didn't get the gold star, so you don't get invited. That's how it worked within Beachbody, which is so crappy. And that was a huge control mechanism to keep you at doing it, because you wanted to unlock like the next level, kind of like a game. You wanted to unlock going to get that special attention.
I was thinking of a video game, because right now my husband and I are addicted to Dragon Merge. And yeah, it's kind of funny how in the last year our conversation has kind of become this loaded language of video game terms.
Yeah, yeah.
As we
Well, Spike, I want to say thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I mean, I have such a good time chatting with you. And, you know, there's always so much to talk about with everybody who is, I guess, in the fight of destructive groups, in the fight against anything that is eroding personalities and humanity.
It's an important conversation, I believe, for humanity to have as we evolve better and healthier ways to govern ourselves and each other. If you look at how things were back in the 13th century, where the king had ultimate rights over you, and, you know, we were all either starving or really, really rich and protected by a bunch of people in metal cans walking around with broadswords, we're learning that rights to determine our lives are not just extended to white male landowners, but to anybody of any color, any flavor, any whatever. Humanity is learning, and I think in this time we are learning how not to treat each other. And that's a very important conversation for humanity to be having at this juncture.
It is. And one of the things that I said early on during the pandemic is I think we can be better and do better with each other. And overall, I do. That's really my belief. We can be better and do better. Even if it's something as simple as opening a door for someone, or, you know, whatever it is. And we just can be better with things and with each other if we if I really feel that if we approach people with kindness and, you know, compassion, understanding, seeking to understand, you know, as opposed to automatically just kind of like having walls up, just trying to be open. And I am far from perfect. I'm not, but I do try to be open to understand, because I want to be better. I want to understand things, and I can't learn if I'm like, well, I know it all.
Yeah, no, I think we all are getting better, and we are all learning. And the more that we can say, well, I'm not perfect and I don't have the answers, and saying, I don't know, but here's what I think, and comparing notes with each other. I think the internet is going to be moving forward, is going to be a great tool for humanity to reach out to itself and learn from each other.
I agree. And I think it's also important to be like, well, this is what I believe today, because, you know, if I learn something else, I can change what I'm believing and saying. You know, just because I said that yesterday, don't come and beat me up because I'm saying something different. Well, I have new information.
Yeah, we should be able to change our minds.
Yes.
That's a very, very, you know, beware the person who keeps stuck to that one thing and doubles down because they can't admit they were wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
nobody
know
wants to
I
admit
was
they're
wrong.
wrong. Who wants to say I'm totally wrong? I mean, nobody wants to do that. But you know what? There's beauty, I think, in saying like, I got that wrong.
Oh, I was, yeah. I mean, the stuff that I believed back when I was still just before 2012, and everybody started going a little bit wobbly in the new agey community. The stuff that I believed, it's like, oh my God, did I really believe that?
And you did. Yeah. Just like I believed in Beachbody. And like I told Chris yesterday, I remember saying I would bleed blue. That is how attached I was to Beachbody. I would bleed blue. And blue is Beachbody's color.
Oh, I was about to say, I was going, okay, is that their color?
Yeah, that's their color. That means that you would never change and go to another company or do anything else because you are loyal to that organization. And that is
Will I ever see thee red? I will marry at thy will, sire, at thy will. Sorry, it's an old folk song.
I don't know it.
It's called Rose. It's from the supposedly from the War of the Roses, but probably is a bit of folklore. Rose, 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 will I ever see thee red? I will marry at thy will, being that it's a couple of Lancaster people saying, will I ever see you marry a York person?
Okay, gotcha.
British history. Gotta love it.
Well, girl, I'm going to let you go for now, but I've had such an amazing time like I said, as always, and these are important conversations. And thank you so much for your willingness to, come on and talk to me. And I know we're going to have more conversations because, that's the beauty, I think, of building this community in terms of with other creators and people that work with creators. Since you're John's assistant, is like, then we can all start talking with each other, and then find other people to bring into the fold, and like just get the message out more in terms of why these things are problematic, and hopefully somebody might see something and go like, maybe I should rethink what I'm doing.
Yeah, and just creating the circle of creators who all are, because it's not just one of us. John is no guru, believe me, even though people accuse him of it. He's wrong sometimes, and like one of our commenters corrected him on some little thing. It was like, yes, thank you. I needed that little bit. We've all got pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, yeah. All right, girl. Well, you go enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll chat to you later, or chat with you later, whatever. Thanks, Spike. It was such a pleasure talking with you. Now, I want to know from you, what did you think of this Sales Hucksters Toolkit, and how do you think that it relates to multi-level marketing? I'm just going to say, as I lift the hood in multi-level marketing, I get more fascinated with the more I learn, the more I want to know. And that's why I keep, making things to share with you, because I just really am just mesmerized by there's so many different intricacies interrelated on this, quote, business structure that we know as multi-level marketing. Now, like Spike said, when we talk about this toolkit, and really when we talk about just marketing in general and sales, it can lean towards it being ethical or unethical on the continuum, depending how things are applied. Now, to me, when I think of multi-level marketing, because the whole idea is for, we know that you have to just recruit people to make money. Just selling the products alone isn't going to cut it. You've got to get other people to join you. And that means that you have to sell to them a belief. More than anything, that's what you're selling them, is the belief that they can do this, that they are going to be able to have passive income, residual income, and they're not going to have to really work that hard because they're going to have all these other people doing it too. And the money is just going to start flowing in at some point. Yeah, you might have to do some upfront work and work really hard, but sooner or later, you're going to be able to just kick back and relax, and, it's just going to come in. But the thing is, even those at the top, they're running around ragged. I mean, they want you to think they're living this dream life. But the truth of the matter is, it's not a dream. It really ends up being more of a nightmare. And when you think about it, those who do join, they join because they believed what they were sold. They were sold this dream just like maybe you were, and I know I was. They, like everyone else, are also victims. And what they end up doing is perpetuating that myth, that belief system, because they have to. That's how they're holding their house of cards together, is by keeping that going. The problem, though, is with those who create this type of business structure, because it's set up for only a very few to make any money. And beyond that, it's really only set up for those at the top, the C level, the CEO, the founders, those people to make money. Everyone else, you're just really not that important because they could close like that. And a huge issue is that, you know what? If you start having a problem, that's your fault. It's never the business structure. It's never a problem with the opportunity. It's always on you. It's something you didn't do. But if you do well, that's because the opportunity is so amazing. And then when you start to falter, it goes back to you, which is just so icky. It's just really using so much of what we believe in. And I think that's the overall problem, that we as Americans believe that if you work hard, you can be successful. And MLM leverages that, and they twist it and bastardize it. And it just becomes such an icky mess. It is so highly problematic. People need to wake up that with this business model, it was never intended for them to win. It's for them to think they're going to win. But they need to realize that if they're struggling, it's not their fault. The fault is with how it's all set up. And if they're going to make a change, they need to break away from it. And I know stepping away from something that you believe in because you think if you just keep on going, if you just work a little bit harder, you're going to find the right people. Other people are going to see how amazing this is, and they're going to join you and be by your side. But you really end up, it's more of a rat race than anything. And you will absolutely exhaust yourself just trying to even begin to get a little bit of momentum. It's up to us to put our stories out there and to talk about this very frankly, because people need to know it's not their fault. The system is set up against them, and change starts now.